Okay, everybody, this is my dad. He agreed to talk to us a little bit about some questions that people keep asking. So hopefully this will answer some of those for everybody, and you can have another perspective of the hauntings in the house I grew up in. Hi, Dad. Thanks for doing this.
Hello.
Okay, so what made you and Mom decide to purchase the house?
Oh, it was the backyard because it all faced onto a green belt. It was a pie-shaped lot, so it was very private. Um, and that's really what it was. Went into the house, walked straight out the back to the back deck, big, huge covered deck. Looked out on the green belt, and it's like, this is it. We're buying the house. I don't care what the upstairs or the downstairs looks like. So that kind of is what got it going and got us buying it. So of course, it was closer to work. That was the original goal to move in the first place, was to get something closer to my office.
Okay. Did the previous owners or the realtor or anything say anything to you guys about the house being haunted?
No,
And the I'm trying to think, like, we moved in around like 1993, so the previous owners would have been in there from
yes,
like
right.
79 to 93.
No, because they weren't the house was built in '79. There was another owner that had it that he sold it to them, and I'm not sure when they bought
Oh,
it.
okay. Oh,
So there's two owners prior to us. So
okay. Okay, that's interesting. So basically two owners in like 13 years,
yeah.
313
Hmm.
years. Um, when I started saying the house was haunted or that I was experiencing things, did you and Mom ever have any discussions about it? And if you did you guys believe me or did you think something else was going on?
I didn't. I was kind of a non-believer because I'm an engineer and I'm of logic and things have to be proven. And I was thought it was odd that you were saying you were having these issues. So was your little brother, by the way, too. He was less verbal about it, but his actions indicated that something was going on. And I think it took a little bit, and then your mother, things started happening to her that started changing her mind. And then, so for me, it was a slow build up through the years, not only of you and Edward, but then friends and others that independent people that came into the house or around the house and they noted stuff. So it was kind of like, well, something must be going on. So that was kind of how it got started
Okay.
with my process of believing what's happening here. So
Um, so I guess so since you were saying since Mom started getting affected and you started coming around, then Mom was probably the one who out of the two of you believed me first. Like I know she
I
sat
would
me
say
down
yes.
on after
Yeah.
one specific occasion and said, "I'm so sorry, I believe everything you've said."
Right. I think that's true. Yeah, that's accurate. So
Um, so was there tell me about the first time that you actually had something happen to you.
well, I think that looking back in time, I think the first time it happened, we were in the house fairly pretty much a short period of time, and we heard a window shattered in the back of the house on the main level. And I mean, it was clear as bell. It shot me out of bed. And it was like somebody was breaking in, had broken the sliding glass door or the back of the kitchen window. And I went running down there expecting to see somebody. And of course, there was no shattered anything. There was no windows were broken. Nothing fell on the floor and had broken. So it was, and I just found that odd. It's like, well, I must have dreamed it or something. It's like, but it sounded so real. It just literally shot me out of bed. So it was like, well, what the heck was that? And I didn't have any clue then. So I just,
I
finally
never
went back to bed.
that's the first time I've
Yeah.
heard that story. I think that's crazy.
Yeah. So but it was many years later. Then I said, oh, I think I know what that was now.
Them being doing what they do.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I get the most is why in the hell you and Mom stayed there for almost 30 years in a house that was not only haunted but was so active that there's like so many stories and so many people affected.
Well, I think one of the things that people have, have a perception of a haunting or haunted place is that it's happening every day.
Yeah.
and that if you show up there, you will certainly see something. Something will happen to you. That wasn't the case. I mean, over 27 years, which is 9,500 days, you actually count up all the incidences. You probably could do the same for you or for others. In 100 days, even 1,000 days. I mean, it's a small percentage, so it's not happening all the time. There might be months that go by, quite a gap in between these things. So we love the house, we love the location, so we never saw a reason to leave just because of that. In fact, it was kind of like later after we had been there many years, 20 some years, we had an incident that happened where a lot of noise was going on in the entryway, and we just rolled over. So that's just the ghost. We just went back to bed. They weren't throwing knives at us. They weren't, like they do in some of these ghost movies. They weren't chopping us up or pulling us into walls into another portal or anything like that. So it just didn't seem like it was that egregious that we had to move. I know it was upsetting to your mother at times, but we worked around it, I guess. And of course, having the medium come and actually get rid of the more aggressive spirits seemed to make a difference.
It
Seemed to
made
make
a
a
huge
big difference.
difference. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Because I think the other spirits were very benevolent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what bothered your mother, because she came down with cancer, and then the one lady was always trying to tuck her in or brushing her hair back or doing stuff like that, which scared the heebie-jeebies out of your mother when it
Yeah.
happened. But she kind of understood too that they're not doing it out of malice.
Yeah.
It's really out of love. So it just that was part of the reason. Is just we didn't see that. The few incidents, or not few, but the number of incidents we had, we didn't feel it was egregious enough that we would move. Now, had that medium not come and we had gotten rid of the more aggressive spirit that really bothered your little brother, that might have precipitated us to move.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. So I've only shared a couple stories so far on the page. I'm like trying to do like a linear timeline of stuff because I just feel like that's a little bit easier than jumping around, and it's like keeping stuff a little bit more straight in my head as far as kind of the progression of you and mom getting affected and Ed getting more affected. And one of the stories I shared was that time that I uh, thought there were people downstairs with me when I was still sleeping downstairs. And they were like tearing apart the playroom and like trying to get into my room. And I turned on all the lights and turned on all the stereos.
Yeah.
And that you eventually woke up feeling like something was wrong. And I was wondering if you could tell your perspective of that whole incident from your point of view, if you remember it at all.
I don't really remember that much, so I don't know if I could add a lot to that. I know that you were quite upset, and I came downstairs, but I was more bothered about you being down in that basement, because I had a friend or acquaintance that I knew where their daughter was attacked in the basement room from an actual person. So
Yeah.
that's what bothered me. I was worried. I got worried about that too. But I at that point in time, I don't think I was quite a believer yet.